Have you ever been so angry that murder isn't enough?
John Carpenter's The Thing is an unrivaled powerhouse in the science fiction and horror genres, and is revered as a masterful pioneer in practical effects technology. It's known for creatively horrifying monsters, unmatched levels of paranoia, and the distilled dread of dying alone in an unforgiving wasteland. I'd recommend you watch the film first before this review, but the long and short of it is that Norwegian scientists discover an alien in the ices of Antarctica. Shortly thereafter, it escapes and goes on to infect and assimilate members of both the Norwegian outpost and a nearby American outpost. In the end, only 2 members of the American outpost are left alive, MacReady and Childs, neither of which can be sure if the person sitting across from them might be something other than human. And while people are quick to shit on the 2011 prequel film for being bad, they often neglect to mention the sequel we got in 2002, The Thing video game. I'm going to go on record and say I knew going into this it wasn't a great game. I saw Spoonie's review back in 2007 when it first aired, and when I actually got to sit down with a copy of the game myself, I realized he was only scraping the tip of the iceberg with his rant. This is, by far, one of the worst games I've ever played in my fucking life, and you're going to sit here with me as I peel this garbage heap apart piece by fucking piece. So the game has a cold open with these 2 nameless dudes getting mauled by a 12-year-old's first spore creature design, and wow, this game's acting is bad right out of the gate. I don't know if these guys are actually speaking Norwegian or not, but their level of disinterest while being disemboweled by an alien hellbeast transcends the language barrier. Just listen to that absolutely genuine terror. After hearing some ominous laughter, we cut to the actual start of the game, and I'll give the designers this. It's at least a cool little touch to have the load screen be the cell infection graphic from the 1982 film. Really does a great job reminding you of the vastly superior movie you could be watching right now. We play as Blake, a member of the super specialized Arctic Marines flying over the remains of the outpost from the movie and updating his superior, Colonel Whitley. Colonel Whitley, incidentally, is voiced by William B. Davis, aka the cigarette-smoking man from the X-Files, and, yeah, spoiler alert, guess whose evil laughter we heard in the intro.
How many historic events have only the 2 of us witnessed together? How often did we make or change history?
Yeah, couldn't get more typecast unless you threw a keyboard in a vat of plaster. We're dropped off at the door to the outpost, and almost immediately the first issue comes to light. The fucking camera. Now admittedly, it's not as bad as some titles, but it's still pretty garbage. Your camera is locked at a flat horizontal plane at all times, and aiming at enemies is done for you via an automatic lock-on system. There's an option with the default settings to hit the shift key to go into first person and manually aim, but that locks your feet to the ground for some reason. With a free online fan patch, you can change it to a free aim mechanic that lets you look up and down, but even then you're trapped into about a 30-degree range of vertical motion, and on top of that the reticle gets bounced all over the geometry around you, so it's never quite aiming where you want it to. Even without all that taken into account, the actual movement of the camera feels floaty and there's no way to adjust mouse sensitivity. Overall, it just feels clunky. Oh right, I need to talk about the plot. Why do I get the feeling these tangents are going to be pretty common? So we arrive at US Research Outpost North 31, and if you recall, the entire base literally exploded at the end of the film, so there's nothing here to find except some easily repaired fuse boxes, functional computers, and oddly relevant detailed notes left behind by Blair. Huh, you'd think that almost all those would have been, absolutely fucking gutted by dynamite, but I guess tech and paper from 1982 was just surprisingly resilient. After finding Childs' body in the UFO under the shack, you're told to blow up the buildings that are still standing with C4. Why you're told to do this exactly? I don't know. Why Blake doesn't question why they're wasting precious military hardware on veritable grave sites? I don't know. Why is cigarette-smoking man walking around outside the base laughing to himself? I don't fucking know. So we plant the bombs, get back to the chopper, and because we lost contact with the Alpha team, Blake decides to investigate what happened to them. We're dropped off at the Norwegian base, alone for some fucking reason, and after faffing about trying to figure out where to go for about a minute and a half, we run into this guy, Carter, who's injured. Ugh, god, now I have to explain the fucking squad mechanics. So this game has a much touted squad operations mechanic where squad mates react in real time to how you play and trust you accordingly. But it's a system that's a puddle wide and a raindrop deep. Someone doesn't trust you and they're injured? Heal them with a medkit. Someone doesn't trust you and they're healthy? Give them a gun and ammo. Simple as that. Repeat process is necessary until that little bar in their name goes green. You have 4 slots for friendly AI, though I don't know why, because at no point in the game will you ever have more than 3 party members, nor do you fucking want more than 3 goddamn party members, because the AI in this game is absolutely horseshit. Take a good buddy Carter here in this absolutely brilliant pathfinding down this shallow slope. Get used to these fuckers getting stuck on the geometry, it happens more frequently than lens flares in an Abrams film. This is saying nothing for their fucking aim in this game, which half the time is enough to do all the heavy lifting for you, and the other half of the time is bringing you in the back of the head with 12 gauge buckshot. And this finally brings us to the combat, because lo and behold, it's by far the worst combat I've ever played since RWBY Grim Eclipse, and I returned that game after 2 hours of play. There's a fucking stream of me doing that up on Fatman's channel if you don't believe me. I mentioned earlier that the game automatically locks onto your enemies at a certain cone of your vision, but I don't really think I emphasize how absolutely brainless this makes combat in this game. If it weren't for the occasional environmental hazard, more on those later, I could play this game blindfolded. So maybe you want some extra challenge, actually add some shooter to this third-person shooter. Swap right on over to the patched-in alternate control scheme and find the difficulty shoot through the roof because the hit detection in this game is absolutely worthless without the lock-on. And it's not even like this game is fun when you actually do hit something. The kinetics of this game are fucking abysmal. I fired Nerf guns with more kick than the fucking shotgun, and anything smaller than that registers like my sex life on the Richter scale. A whopping 0. Just to pile more shit onto this fucking problem, you're never going to run out of ammo, making almost every single encounter a fucking joke. That is, unless you treat this game like, an actual shooter and decide to reload your gun when you have a moment of downtime. This is because the game doesn't actually track the number of bullets you have, just the number of magazines, so when you reload your gun, you toss any remaining ammo in it. You can literally fire one shot from the SMG, reload, and lose 49 shots just to top yourself off. Which, isn't wrong, you don't magically hold on to any unspent ammunition when you swap mags in reality, but it's perplexing in a game with a shape-shifting alien menace, blood test kits the size of lava lamps, and fucking UFOs, the one subject on which they want to be realistic is fucking reloading. Don't ever pick up this game, but if you need to beat it to win your soul back from the devil, do yourself a favor. Unbind that reload key and never look back. So where was I? Right, the Norwegian base. So you find this other chucklefuck just hanging around in the same room where the thing originally thawed from, and from here you set out to find Pierce, the leader of the Alpha team who went missing. We go to, I guess a different part of the Norwegian base. I say that because the base didn't seem quite so spread out in the first film or even the prequel, but meh. Maybe we just didn't get to see the full complex thanks to time constraints. Anyway, we find Pierce, and the motherfucker isn't moving unless we test ourselves with the blood test kits that the Arctic Marines, who know nothing about the alien menace, just so happen to have brought. So we track down a couple of those, and while Blake turns up clean, Carter and Cruz, not so much. Both of them thing out, and wow, isn't it weird how we were alone with them both for a prolonged period of time and neither of them bothered trying to kill us once? You would think the thing would have taken advantage of the 2-on-1 odds and just offed me back at the other section of the base. But then again, maybe they also knew they didn't stand a chance because by the time they finished transforming, I've already pumped them full of enough lead to qualify them as a Michigan water supply. Pierce follows that up with a healthy dose of flamethrower and problem solved. This introduces the other big conceit of the gameplay. The bigger enemies in this game need to be burned to death in order to finally kill them. Why the small enemies don't need to be burned or why we need to weaken them with bullets first, I don't know. All I know is, hey, where the fuck is Pierce? He was right fucking behind me!
God damn it. Pierce must have got lost behind me somewhere.
He got lost in the storm? Did you guys even try holding hands? Are you that uncomfortable with your masculinity that you're willing to risk hypothermia over sharing a little bit of life-saving skinship with your teammates? Jesus Christ. Anyway, we wind up at this tower? Where are we again? I guess this is still the Norwegian base considering we find another member of Alpha Team here, casually chucking grenades at anything that moves.
As you do.
His name is Pace, and I guess I can give the game a little credit here. Every friendly character you come across in this game has a unique name, albeit their personalities have the dynamic range of coward, asshole, and cowardly asshole, but that's still a whopping 30 extra words they had to program into the game. Kudos for the minimum acceptable effort. So we mosey on over to this other building complex. Okay? I guess the Norwegians just had a small town hanging around down here. That's fine, they like cold temperatures, right? I guess that makes sense. Turns out this place has a pretty sweet radio setup that can let us cut through the static in the storm, but it's locked behind this door. Don't know why we can't just shoot the door open, but whatever, we need a key. It just so happens that the only one who can open it is this guy, Williams, who either just did a line of cocaine or is having a stroke. Either way, he doesn't trust me or Pace and tells us to hunt down the 3 walker enemies that are in the base. And before you Walking Dead fans freak out thinking these are the zombies from everyone's favorite flagging meme generator, nope, because those fuckers are still something that resembles a fucking threat. Hey, remember in Dead Space when the necromorphs transformed into a myriad of shapes and forms with a variety of weak points to hit and limbs to sever? Yeah? Well, let's take that brilliant idea, cut it down to 3 monster variants, and remove the completely unique disposal methods. Wouldn't that make the game a whole lot more challenging?
Wait, no, the word I was looking for was repetitive.
That's right. Every single enemy in this game goes down one of 2 ways. Every single one, no exception. By shooting them to shit, or lighting them up with a flamethrower. After you've already shot them to shit. If the bastard you're trying to kill makes a TSA scanner screen look like a Jackson Pollock painting and he still ain't dying, give him a napalm shower and whip out the s'mores, because you'll get more out of those than anything else in this game. After torching the motherfuckers, in actuality I'd forgotten to pick up the flamethrower, so just led them back to William so he'd kill them for me, we finally get to the radio room. And the radio's broken. William, still fresh on his meth bend, decides the most logical line of action is to run out into the snow completely on his own. However, instead of rushing off into the blizzard like any sensible meth head, he politely waits for us in pace at the door, letting us catch up. Presumably we all decide it's better to brave the blizzard instead of staying in a nice warm building that still has food and supplies, because this is where the next loading screen shows us traveling to a new location, and okay, now what the fuck?
Another goddamn building! In fucking Antarctica? Did we colonize the South Pole while I was asleep? What the fuck was going on in Antarctica in 1982 that made it the in place to be? What the fuck even is this place? Why is it here? Is it part of the American outpost? The Norwegian outpost? Who built it? Why does it look like all the other generic grey corridors we've already seen before? How can 3 guys lacking basic Arctic survival necessities like fucking ski masks make it there completely unharmed by the elements when sending outside for longer than 3 fucking minutes in this game outright kills you? Why did they decide it was a safer place to be instead of the building back with the radio that could easily be fixed by the trained engineer that was chucking grenades at us not 10 minutes ago? What is the point of this building? Why are we fucking here?
Do you want to know what the point of this building is? It's a fucking horde mission. Hunker down and blow the shit out of any enemy that steps on your turf. You know, I didn't think shit missions like this became popular until after Left 4 Dead and Gears of War 2, but this just proves that this game sucks so much that it's actually fucking prophetic, integrating garbage game design trends that wouldn't exist for another half decade. And the thing doesn't settle for second place. Oh no, it's gotta be top of the shit pile because it's easily the least tense, interesting, and challenging fight in the game thus far. Why? Well, 1, the next room over is stocked to the fucking brim with ammo and supplies. So if you ever feel the slightest bit uncomfortable, you can just go in there and come out armed like Groucho Marx in a battle of wits. And 2, you can close the doors. I'm not kidding. You can literally close the door to every entry point in the building, and because they're these bizarre doors operated by giant levers, not a single enemy can get to you. Admittedly, it is a double-edged sword because you can't progress without killing the enemies, but this doesn't stop you from just waiting for the room to fill with enemies and chucking a grenade in there to clear it as an afterthought. Hey, Williams, you might not want to get so close to the...
Watch where you're shaking.
Williams? I'm sure he's fine. Wherever he landed. So after killing the reanimated remains of at least 60 people, which begs the question of how many people are left in fucking Antarctica to kill, we skedaddle into the blizzard, again completely unprovoked. And instead of returning to the nice, functional radio building that had warm, intact windows, we wind up here, wherever here is. Why are we here? How did we get here? I don't fucking know, and I don't think the game knows either because it never fucking tells us. I think at this point, even the devs gave up trying to justify their shady design practices. Like, even they realized that giving us some chain of crappy objectives that just so happened to go wrong was paper thin to begin with. So now we're at this industrial looking place, and we're told to run after this Norwegian dude who apparently has a working radio. How do we know he's Norwegian? How do we know he has a working radio? Because the game said so, shut up. Explore some more copy-pasted environments, wrestle with the AI spotty pathfinding, and halfway through exploring the second building, pace things out, and we have to give him a 21-gauge salute before running headlong into a kitchen that spontaneously catches fire.
As they do.
After putting out the fire and making sure the kitchen is marginally more serviceable than the average TGI Fridays, we head up to this observatory, I guess? I don't know why you put an observatory in the shadow of a larger building, but okay. We find Pierce and... oh boy. Hey, remember how John Carpenter's The Thing had a cast of great distinguished actors like Kurt Russell, Keith David, and Wilford Brimley? Or how The Thing 2011 had Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Eric Christian Olsen, and a slew of veteran Norwegian actors who were solid in their own rights?
This game has William B. Davis, and he's not in this scene.
What the hell happened?
I'm not going anywhere. It's over.
What?
It got me. I can feel it.
I can get you help.
You know goddamn well there's only one option here.
No. No, I can't do that.
You don't have a choice.
Look, I won't let you die, asshole.
Come on. Can't handle it?
Come on, Pierce. This is crazy.
Like my dad always said, if you want a job done right, you gotta do it yourself.
Man, that's gotta suck. He only had 2 days until retirement. Well, just about everyone we know is dead, and we've still yet to track down the Norwegian who's hiding out in building number 3. What would be the most logical way to get in there? Is it 1. Through the door he closed using one of our many grenades to blow it open. 2. Find a window and improvise bullets for lockpicks. Or 3. Blow up highly volatile explosive barrels on a questionably stable rooftop next to some debris that we're hoping doesn't end up getting dislodged by the ensuing blast, just so we can use it as a bridge.
If you picked number 3, I'll see you in the psych ward. I hear they have new padding in their cells.
Actually, what kind of liquid that's put in barrels in Antarctica actually explode after being shot? Is it gasoline? Kerosene? I've seen that Mythbusters episode. Barrels don't explode like that. I know it might be hypocritical to bitch about exploding barrels in this game and not in others, but unlike every single one of those games, this one squanders every ounce of goodwill that might make the trope acceptable. Okay, so we make it into the building and find a new engineer to replace Pace. Say hello to Collins, everybody. Don't bother getting attached because fuck if I will. According to our new best friend, the guy we're tailing is somewhere in the basement. We fight our way through the building, literally going up into the rafters in order to get into the overseer's office just so we can open the door on the bottom floor. Who the fuck designed this building? Anyway, we get down there and surprise, surprise, Collins turns out to be a thing. Which is bullshit because I tested him not 30 seconds before he fucking turns. And this raises further questions because we were both swarmed by things not a minute before that. So why in jolly flipping fuck didn't he just transform then and try to kill me when we were being swarmed by the Horde and my back was turned?
You want to know why? It doesn't matter. It does not matter. The blood test kits, loyalty, none of it. You start noticing it while you're playing, but allies only turn at very specific times, typically right before you hit big plot points, or in this particular circumstance, boss fights. And that's when it should click. There's no randomization as to who becomes the thing. The decision as who becomes the thing was set in stone long before the discs were even put to print. There's no long-term upkeep. None whatsoever. The longest you probably keep a single companion is around 3 levels, and then after that they either disappear in a cutscene, or they turn at the beginning of the next mission.
You might think I'm done with the subject, but I'm not, because the game takes what little mystery is left for first-time players and shoves it out the windows, because, in some missions, you need to keep engineers alive, and if you need to keep them alive, they cannot possibly be one of the things, because that would kill them and make the level impossible to finish. Again, not that your allies becoming the thing actually means a whole hell of a lot. By the time Collins got done, I was picking antiquated anime memes out of his quivering, charred flesh mound.
お前はもう死んでいる。何?
Anyway, we get to the very first boss of the game, and this has to absolutely be the most shit piece of boss I've ever encountered. All it does is sit in the middle of the room and flail at you, endlessly spawning head crabs to irritate you. There is no puzzle or challenge. You do what you do with every other enemy in this game. You whip out your shotgun, acquaint it with 40 pounds of slag, and torch the bitch. The problem is his noodly arms have glitchier hitboxes than the pursuer. The boss literally hits us the minute we step into his arena, and there's fuck all we can do about that. Stack that with a lack of hiding places, and we're leaving this fight sans almost every single one of our medical kits. On the reverse end, this guy is absolutely covered in targetable areas. His torso, his arms, and like a dozen tentacles at his base. I had to switch between the finicky free aim controls that came with the fan patch and the normal ones from the standard game just to hit a fucking thing in this fight. And all it ended up doing was causing me to get blindsided by the fucking headwalkers that would just not fucking stop spawning! After dying probably 6 or 7 times to this bullshit, we can persevere, kill this motherfucker, make a run for the junction box, and get the fuck out of here! Oh, I guess the big twist here was that the boss was actually a Norwegian guy we were chasing, but fuck if I care about any of that right now. So where are we now?
Excuse me. The submersible? What the fuck is the submersible?
I'll be first to admit, I don't know much about Arctic research stations, especially random warehouses in the middle of nowhere, but there are just random submerged buildings? Wouldn't it be a subterranean facility? Did the developers confuse the Arctic for the Antarctic? There's a fucking landmass under the ice. Did they build this place on a fucking lake? I should mention that there have been a few papers and documents that mention a company named Gen Inc. setting up shop around Antarctica, and that this submersible is apparently owned by them, and surprise surprise, they're fucking evil. But just that name, Gen Inc.? Was that a placeholder, guys? Yeah, we'll call it generic Inc. and come up with something catchier before we ship. I know a lot of games try to cash in on the Umbrella Evil Corporation thing from Resident Evil, but this is by far the laziest fucking copycat I've ever seen. We don't even fucking learn what they do or why they'd be interested in the thing in the first place. With all these Word documents being left around, you'd think something would mention at this point what the company does, and wow, I just realized how many fucking computers are here in Antarctica. I mean, this is still 1982. I'm pretty sure that each base would have one computer max. The fact that the radio had walls of equipment in the first film should indicate the level of tech back then. McCready's go-to source of entertainment was a chess game that would serve better use as a boat anchor. Where the fuck is this veritable fleet of computers coming from? I wasn't aware the real money was in polar research. I guess Sorayori Mo Toiba Show was wrong and the crew should have just reached out to Norway because that's where the real funding is. I mean, the funding is so good they're handing out computers from 20 years in the fucking future. Maybe I should sign up for an expedition because I could sure use money like that. I guess until then, I'll just have to be thankful for all the wonderful patrons keeping me afloat, especially a huge shout out to Matthew Etzel for joining up. Hope you're having a good stay here, buddy. Lord knows someone in this frozen wasteland needs to be happy. So we get into this place and there's a small puzzle, if you can even call it that, involving 4 switches. The first one is broken and the last 3 can be opened in any order. Honestly, 2 and 3 just let loose some fire and another monster to deal with, while number 4 opens the real door we need to go through in order to open door number 1. According to some science sheets, trademark pending, the thing beasts in this area are 400% bigger. What does that mean? Jack shit, because they all still go down in the same number of shots, making this little anecdote completely pointless. So we work our way down to another button that lets us press the first button that'll open the door to the next set of labs. Why we're trying to gun our way through here? I don't know, I gave up on why Blake decides to do anything back when Pierce died. Anyway, when we... Hello? Well, that's okay then. Alright, in the next area we find a new engineer friend named Price, but since we don't really need him for anything, let's just leave him behind to make sure he doesn't get himself killed. Going downstairs, there's... Okay, look, this next bit is easily one of the dumbest things in this entire game, and it's tricky to describe not just because it's complex, but because it's complex in the stupidest possible way. So there are these 9 research habitat pods or something that are all interconnected by doors that are operated from this laughably big control board, and just like the other button set earlier, the number 1 switch is completely blown. It's almost like the game is allergic to the number 1. That or it's gained preemptive revenge for all the 1 out of 10s it deserves. Regardless, the idea is that opening different doors unleashes certain monsters, but for some reason we need to get to the back of these pods. So a grand total of 6 of these pods need to get opened anyway, including the one in the far back with a thing beast that's apparently resistant to fire. So, I have several questions. 1. Who designed this fucking place? And I'm asking both about the architect and the game designer because I'm pretty sure the collective IQ barely scratches the double-digit mark. 2. Why, in order to get anywhere between these cells, do you have to go through the active experiment territory? Why is there no catwalk or airlock separating these spaces? Why just have 1 door apiece? Do you want your experiments to get contaminated? And 3, how the fuck did this old prick make it back here alive in one piece and then seal himself in if the buttons to operate the doors are exclusively back at the oversight office? I'm getting ahead of myself again. So we work our way through these pods, going up and down just to make sure we don't get swarmed by enemies because this shithole of a research lab has been stingy on the med packs since we wasted them all in that last boss fight. We come across this guy, who I don't know who he is. He things up before I can even ask his name. There's really not much of note in these pods, not even the thing that's more resilient to fire. It goes down like a bitch. I guess our goal here was to get this old fuck who was hiding out in the last pod? This is Dr. Faraday, the guy who's been writing all those science sheets, trademark pending, and apparently someone who we came to rescue? Okay, the game doesn't really give us any justification as to why we couldn't just grab our buddy Price and get the fuck out of Dodge. But whatever, we got Faraday and we've got Price and we're getting the hell out of this bumblefuck of a level, and what the fuck? Who blew up the research lab? I left this place like 5 minutes ago, what the fuck happened? Not like it actually changes anything. Getting to the door is easier than walking to my fridge.
So, Are you ready for things to get stupid? You already thought they were. No. That was just a wee taste of what was to come. Get ready to lose some brain cells.
What the hell?
Stand down, soldier. Good to see you, Doctor.
We need to talk.
All in good time. But first, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask for your weapons.
I'm not doing anything until I get some goddamn answers.
You're out of your league here, Blake.
So I guess this isn't my Medal of Honor ceremony, is it?
A little premature. Right now, we need to have you both tested.
What the hell are you talking about? I'm not infected. My men are dying out there. I've seen firsthand what this infection is capable of.
Oh, you have no idea what it can do.
You son of a bitch!
I thought you were smarter than that.
Jesus Christ, what are you doing?
It's just a tranquilizer, Faraday.
Do you have any idea what's going on out there?
I have a perfect idea.
Jesus, you've done it, haven't you?
There's so much I have to show you. I think you'll be impressed with the results. Pick up Sleeping Beauty and help escort the good doctor. He's had a long day.
Let's run through this play-by-play, shall we? Blake and Faraday come out from the submersible. I guess Price got lost somehow, we never see him again. And who's there to meet them if not Colonel Whitley? Who's Colonel Whitley? Well, don't be surprised if you don't remember, since the last time I mentioned him was back on page 1 of this fucking script. He's your superior officer, and he's joined by dozens of your comrades, all armed to the teeth, aiming their weapons at you. Nothing suspicious about this at all. I'm being an asshole, but honestly, nothing about this would normally be suspicious. There's been a dangerous outbreak of an alien pathogen, and quarantining 2 people who have had extensive contact with it makes a lot of sense. I say normally because Whitley is being about as subtle as a David Cage game with how transparently evil he is. But Blake doesn't even give Whitley time to twirl a single mustache feather before launching into accusations and demands, and Christ, Blake, it's not Whitley's fault that every single radio you've come across has been broken or eaten by Lovecraftian hellbeasts. Cut the guy a little slack. Of course, Whitley doesn't help his case, and instead of trying to, I don't know, explain anything like a good superior officer and calm down his subordinate, he jumps right to threatening Blake and Faraday with even more people. Yeah, great way to curb insubordination, dumbass. Blake makes a dumb remark, hands over his weapon, but doesn't want to be tested. Instead of explaining protocol or anything about the infection, Whitley just muses on how little Blake knows and, oh god, what's wrong with your face? His horrifying crossed eyes, and to a lesser extent his menacing monologue, prompt Blake to lunge for Whitley, only to get tranked as a consolation prize for trying.
That was easily one of the worst scenes I've ever been witness to, and I hope it has been seared into your mind as badly as it has been into mine. Misery loves company.
Where were we? What am I asking? We didn't even know where we were before getting tranked by our boss. So we wake up in this lab and...
Stop! A lab. A fucking lab! Look, I was already giving this game enough shit for all the random buildings sprinkled around Antarctica, but a fucking lab? Like, I'm not talking about a research outpost. This is a straight-up Umbrella Corporation laboratory.
Who the fuck put this here? What were they researching? Was it the Thing? Were they researching the Thing? Because by all accounts, the UFO was only discovered like a week ago. Is someone at Gen Inc. a fucking psychic? Why are you researching an unstable virus like the Thing when you have someone on your payroll who can see far enough into the future to prepare subterranean research laboratories in fucking Antarctica for a virus that hasn't been discovered yet? Research that? You could literally rule the planet by sundown. Fuck, if you had been smarter, you could have ruled the planet by fucking yesterday. Fuck this. Anyway, Faraday tries to betray Whitley and gets shot for his trouble, and hey, so that's why his name was so familiar. This has to be Kay Faraday's grandfather. Well, like father, like son, getting murdered for trying to expose the truth. Glad to know Kay kicked that trend. Okay, so here the game throws us a little bit of a puzzle, which, hey, good on it. It's the one time in this game where it actually feels like it's a decent, fair challenge. Since they stripped of us our weapons, we can't fight anything in the game for the first time, making everything a legitimate threat. To top this off, we get a big thing beast patrolling outside in a static pattern. So what we need to do is repair one fuse box, open the door when the big guy is away from us, fix a second fuse box before he comes back around the corner, turn on an auto turret to keep him pinned down, grab ammo off a corpse in the hall, give it to our medic buddy Falchek here, bring him back into our cell where we open this door, have Falchek kill the head crabs, repair a third fuse box, open the second door, have Falchek give our new engineer buddy Dixon some first aid, then take Dixon over to this armory so he can fix the advanced fuse box and we can arm up. After that, we just mop up the stray enemies, kill the big bad thing beast, destroy the turret so it doesn't get used on us, and honestly, after that, I felt pretty satisfied. It's the most tense I've felt in this game so far without getting frustrated. Oh, but then the frustration comes back. We get a little more insight into what's going on, and it appears Whitley has infected himself with the B4 strain of the Cloud Virus. And really, guys? The Cloud Virus? You know, why not just strip every last bit of ambiguity from the original film and quantify the monster that's most defining characteristic is unpredictability? We meet this guy Carter, who immediately turns, and just beyond him is a security gate that we need a specific series of switches to lower. Spoiler alert, it's the two switches on the ends, and the audio key that you get when you succeed is so quiet that when I actually got it right the first time, I didn't even realize that and triggered the alarm anyway. This then happened multiple times after that because I thought I got the code wrong. And before you ask, no, there's no message or note or even fucking clue that explains how this gate works beyond acknowledging its existence. Getting through the gate lets us go to this place with a bunch of holding cells, one of which holds a thing beast and the other two closed off ones hold off friendlies. A soldier named Fisk and an engineer named Stanmore. If you're paying attention, you'll see that this is the first time we actually have 4 party members, but don't get used to it because almost the minute the doors open, Stanmore things out. Hope you enjoyed having a full squad for the 30 seconds we were allowed to have one because this will never happen again. Moving on, we go through some vents, open a door so Dixon can repair this box so we can swipe the elevator code, and finally we end this level. Now the next level is exciting because it introduces a new enemy type. One that sucks just like all the others. Surprise, surprise, shooting our way out of the secret corporate military laboratory attracts a whole lot of military men to start showering onto our position. Almost literally considering their fucking spawn rate. They're really not all that threatening because they take about 5 fucking years to line up a shot, and just kiting around some cover will throw them off their aim. The only downside is, if they do get off some shots, you're going to lose a whole bunch of health or die like a bitch because they also have auto aim. Honestly, this entire next level is filler. There's nothing of note beyond a single corridor where everything starts exploding, and even if you put out the fire before it spreads, a single flame from any fire-based weapon will light the whole place up like a summer bonfire, which makes killing the thing beast around the corner quite a pain. The best idea is just to run and let the fucker burn to death. Oh, and there's another inoperable number 1 button, but this time it's accompanied by a whole slew of buttons, so it's not quite as on the nose as the last one. We go down another elevator to the next level, and hey, where's Fisk? Did the fucking singularity that ate Price get him too? Motherfucker! We get out of the elevator and foul check things out, so we kill him and suddenly we're down a medic. A problem that lasts for about 15 whole seconds before we run into our new bestest buddy Temple, who was shot and left to die by Whitley for some reason. You know, I'm starting to notice a trend with that guy in leaving loose ends untied.
You can kill a man, but you can't kill what he stands for.
So we go downstairs to this tunnel and fight through more dudes and, Dixon? You alright there, buddy? Well. We work our way through the tunnel and we come up against the next big boss fight, which sucks almost as much as the first, except this time we actually have fucking cover this time around and a light switch we can use to stun it. It still sucks and eats up a good half of our medkits though. From here we discover that Whitley has set us up the bomb, and it's a scramble to get the elevator and escape. And by scramble I mean going towards it at the speed of a light jog, which the game has perpetually set our character to. We get there and...
No! Dixon! You were the only genuine entertainment I got out of this game! No!
Oh, and, sorry, Temple. Guess your revenge will have to, never come. Oh, that was a satisfying character arc. So glad we got a whole cutscene around him. This next level is about as much of a slog as the one where they introduced the soldiers. I mean, that could describe any level in this game, but what I mean is that it's mostly filler with only one important plot point. Our goal, apparently, is to get some C4 from this warehouse in order to stop cargo planes loaded with the virus from taking off. We're also introduced to flamethrower variant soldiers, though they're not given a very promising start because your first encounter with them, you can literally back out the door and let them in a room full of thing beasts duke it out. For extra lulz, I popped in and out and tossed high explosive grenades into the mix to shake things up, but mostly you just...
let them fight.
We find a new engineering buddy named Paul, swipe the C4 and fight our way back out of the fucking base. This next level is a little trickier because the goal is to plant C4 on the planes without raising an alarm. You'd think shooting a gun anywhere near the base would be enough to raise suspicion at the minimum, but as long as you're about 10 feet away from any given soldier as you fire, you're going to be in the clear. So we can just kill the guard keeping watch over every single hangar as we approach and plant the C4 without much issue. Of course, if you attack the guards who are protecting the flight control tower, that'll set up an immediate alarm and all the doors on the base will start to close, so we'll save those pricks for last. Let's not forget to raid the hangars for supplies while we're at it. No idea how many bastards will be inside the base proper, so it's better to be armed than Hey, what the fuck is with this camera angle? What is this bullshit? This isn't a Resident Evil game. What the fuck is going on? And get this, the planes aren't even cargo planes. These are fucking luxury liners. I worked at an airport for a straight year. I know the difference. Whitley isn't transporting the thing. He's sending his employees on vacation. Thanks a lot, Blake. That was 4 years of accrued time off with all these soldiers have been working towards. Well, when I finished setting up the C4, I realized I forgot Pal back where we started because for some reason he wasn't set to follow, and well, what do you know? All the NPCs bitch about the cold, but they can stand out in it in nothing but sweatpants for literal minutes on end and can be completely fine. I guess Blake was the only one not issued those thermal undies that everyone else got. We go back, clear the tower, run into a medic that turns on us, snipe the C4, which shouldn't work because C4 needs an electric charge, but whatever, and jump down an air vent that's outside for some reason. Alright, fine, Blake, do what you have to. We land in the vents and find out that Pal's joined the poor souls consumed by the void because the bastard has vanished on me just like Fisk and Price. It's probably the first time in my life I've been happy to actually see a bland polygonal cave in a video game just because it's a break from the monotony of copy-pasted corridors and endless barren wasteland. It doesn't last too long though because we discover the very end of the cave is a lift to the surface. That requires a key. So we climb up this rock ramp to break into, you guessed it, more copy-pasted corridors. And, I'm not exaggerating here, what follows is the absolute worst section of the game by a fucking mile. After we infiltrate this new, completely different subterranean research lab, we're given a nebulous goal to infiltrate the armory. I don't know, for some reason we just know this lab has an armory and we'll find the key to the lift there. So first things first, we break in through some air vents and wind up in this room with a catwalk that spirals vertically along its walls. On the inside, bordering the catwalks, are a series of pipes and tubes that are spraying hot steam out onto the catwalks, making the only paths up or down a hazard for any common person. And no, there is no explanation provided as to what these pipes do, where they go, or why they've all simultaneously burst. At the top of this is a little air duct that leads back into the ducts that we came into, since Blake is physically incapable of jumping 1 foot and lifting himself into a 4-foot crawl space. Also, there's this NPC named Cohen, who asks us for a weapon. What are the ways? Don't give him one. Just leave him there at the top of the ramp and use him as a heal bot. You'll thank me later. Not that it's going to matter because odds are he gets smoked by the steam, the soldiers, or the fucking auto turrets along the way. This section is bullshit thanks to the endlessly spawning swarms of head crabs and the insanely accurate turrets that'll end you before you have a chance to fucking blink. If we were to do this level as the developers intended and fight our way through it, we'd run down, kill a few things, blow up a turret, then run back up to Cohen for heals. However, upon playing the game a second time for extra footage, an ordeal that has left me scarred and missing several important brain cells, I discovered that if you just keep your medpacks out and gun the gauntlet, you can make it to the bottom and through the door without much problem. But then you get through the door and you have a new problem. The turret rooms. Literally just 3 rooms with turrets where you have to run from cover to cover and avoid fire. That's it. If you stand out in the open for slightly too long, you're dead. If you hesitate, you're dead. If you so much as sneeze at the wrong time, dead. I hate these rooms. I hate them with a burning passion. And yes, you can turn off the turrets in the room by reaching their switches. Doesn't make it any less annoying. I'm done giving a fuck about these rooms. Whoever designed them can get friendly with a lawnmower for all I care. Next level. The one bright spot in the shit show of a segment is actually right at the start of this level where 2 NPCs, Ryan and Stoles, are at each other's throats thinking the other person is infected. If you paid attention to the conversation, you know that Ryan is the one infected because he mentions Cohen going to a medical supply area. And if you remember, we left Cohen to the mercy of the thing in a place that was decidedly not a medical supply area. So for the second time in the game, we use a single brain cell, test Ryan, and what do you know? He's the volunteer for tonight's luau roast. After this, we go into an office where we can dig up more info on the Thing virus. Wait. The Thing virus? Weren't they calling it the Cloud virus like an hour ago? Did two fucking people write this game? And even if you try to argue that these are two different characters talking about the same virus, what kind of self-respecting scientist calls an alien organism a thing? The only reason it has that name is it's a fucking kick-ass title for a horror movie and an accurate descriptor from a panicked layman working at an Antarctic research station. Someone seriously sat down and called the monster the Thing as an official title. That's literally like calling the xenomorph from Alien an alien, but even that's a more accurate definition of what it is. It was bullshit that Faraday named it the Cloud virus, but I was willing to give it the benefit of the doubt because a scientist wouldn't sit idly by without cataloging something as fucking crazy as an alien infection. But just the Thing virus? How many people wrote this game? Did they talk to each other? Were they even on the same fucking continent? Gah!
It doesn't matter. None of this is ever talked about or referenced again. Fuck this game.
Ugh. Stoles volunteers very helpfully to go open a security door for us, but only if we get him in first using this time release mechanism. Why a lab has one of those set up in a corner of an office completely around the corner from said door, or why the corridor it leads to has a controllable turret, I don't know. Seems kinda like a drain on the budget. Regardless, Stole runs off, we open one door, he opens another, he becomes a Thing beast, and we all have a good time. Or at least I get the feeling that was the intent, and instead I'm just wondering why I needed to play a piss-easy waiting game that had zero consequence or stakes. The next room over sees a complete stranger come up to us, a clearly armed Arctic Marine, and asks us to make sense of something that he, someone who clearly works in this complex, can't understand on a computer monitor in the next room over. Yeah, nothing suspicious about that, now is there? Of course, instead of doing the logical thing, you know, being cautious around someone who might be the Thing and not trusting them until they've earned it, blindly take their word for it and walk into the room, alone, with no plan. Fucker closes the door and poison gas starts pouring in. What did you think would fucking happen? So we only have 35 seconds before dying, and before this fan patch was released, I'd have to imagine it was a real dick move because the last save station was back before the room with the fucking pipes. So we'd have to restart this whole level all over again if we ended up dying. Thankfully, the fan patch added in manual save states, which makes this game a whole hell of a lot easier to play. Not that there's anything actually complicated about this trap. All we have to do is repair this box on the wall and use a turret to destroy the tank near the door to stop the gas and open the door itself. Well, there goes the one brain cell that grew during the Ryan and Stoles argument. For some reason, clicking around on a nearby computer opens a back door in the main hall, and two soldiers decide to come out of the elevator just to go through it. Not sure why, but okay. We follow after them, and after passing through a room with a turret and a massive flesh-spawning head crabs, we get a small cutscene of the guy who locked us in the prison room entering one of the nearby doors, and immediately it's time to throw all of our objectives out the window for some sweet, sweet revenge. It's a good thing that the game facilitates this too, because we literally cannot progress without killing him. First things first, we kill these soldiers coming out of this weird station that's overlooking the armory shooting range and head up to it. We made a friendly engineer here named Peltola, and not really sure if we should celebrate this, but our buddy Peltola here is the last companion we're going to get in the game. And as luck would have it, he's only 2 days away from retirement. Anyway, after we restore power to the observation room with a fuse box, we can use a turret station here to operate the turret inside the lab where the backstabbing cock gobbler is hiding. So we finally get to exact our revenge for being mildly inconvenienced. Oh, he's thinking out. Well, that kinda undercuts the tension. Here I thought we would actually be committing some murder today. We blow open the door to the room, finish off the asswipe who tried to gas us, and get the key to the main armory door. After saving and killing the two guards who just kinda stood inside the doorway while I murdered their co-workers, we get to the third boss of the game, and it is not an improvement on the last one. So it's this dangling phallus thing that just kinda swings at us? Like every other boss in the game, the hitbox on its attacks is fucking disgusting. Sometimes we can stand right inside its attack and not take a lick of damage, but most times it can swing nowhere near us and clip off a third of our health. And like every other boss in this game, it's too much of a little bitch to kill us on its own, so it has a little helper that'll get loose if the boss hits its container. Word to the wise, just blow that fucker open at the start of the fight and kill him. It'll save you so much trouble just to have him out of the way. But yeah, this boss is arguably the most bullshit just because there's no cover and his range is impossible to dodge. The other bosses you could find very minuscule sweet spots where they couldn't reach, but never once did I find a comfortable place to set up shop and go to town on this one. The only reliable method was a circle strafe, but even then this fucker keeps getting hits in too damn consistently to mark it as a reliable strategy. Regardless, we kill the boss and we can finally retrieve the lift key.
The lift key. I've spent the last 4 pages, a dedicated 30 minutes of gameplay to getting one fucking key! I beat this game In 3 hours, literally 1/6 of its entire runtime is focused solely on getting this one key and escaping. Oh shit, we still have to escape.
Yeah, so the minute we kill the boss, soldiers burst into the room and shoot the shit out of us, making us waste even more medical kits right after having blown most of them in the boss fight itself. Normally this wouldn't be too much of an issue, except we've already looted all the areas we've passed through, there are no medics here, and the worst section of the game, by far, is here. For some reason, left completely unexplained, the fucking building catches fire and literally starts exploding around us.
The fire section. The fucking fire section. Who designed this thing? Because I swear to God, I will find you. One day, you'll be in your kitchen, minding your own business, making a sandwich, and I'll be there. And your kitchen will fucking explode because like everything else in this fucking game!
This is something I've been saving for this part in specific, but everything, and I mean everything in this fucking game explodes at random. Abandoned kitchen? Explodes. Containment antechambers? Explodes. Motherfucking concrete hallways! You guessed it! Explodes. And here we are where the game reaches critical mass and just has a whole fucking building explode for once. It's never explained. None of it is ever explained. And the worst part is it's where most of the damage you take is going to be coming from throughout the game. The thing beasts and head crabs are fucking pitiful at dealing damage, and the soldiers aren't much better. Both go down like bitches before they can even do so much of anything, but it doesn't matter because the real damage comes from these sporadically placed environmental hazards that'll kill you in seconds if you so much as look in their direction. In a game called The Thing, where you fight the alien horror of The Thing from John Carpenter's The Thing, the scariest fucking thing in this whole game is the fucking ground you walk on because any second, completely unprovoked, it might just fucking explode! And then the designers have the gall, nay, the fucking arrogance to make an entire section based around this cheap-ass ball shot of a mechanic. You literally have to run back up through the entire complex, getting stun-locked by explosions and wasting every last fucking medkit you have just to get to the fucking top of the pipe room. And before you ask, yes, the pipes are still spewing steam, and yes, the game does throw even more enemies at you, making absolutely sure you're not coming out of the section with a single healing item. Oh, but like everything else in this game, it gets better. Because at the end of it, not only do you have to drop down into the air vents, taking an unpreventable fall damage, but you also have to kill 4 huge thing beasts outside near the lift, all while having 0 health packs left. Also, have I mentioned that grenades are only good for killing yourself? Because they're only good for killing yourself! But once you fight your way through that clusterfuck, it's arguable the worst part of the game is over. Only to be followed by the final and arguably second worst part of the game. Yeah, I think when it came time to finish this piece of shit, the developers took ending on a high note a little too seriously and fucked up the Colorado while the interns had to play cleanup. You might have noticed that going into the next section, our good friend Peltola is no longer with us. Sadly, the Void has taken one last victim during our travels and we'll never be seeing him again. This strange existence-eating force has spared Whitley, however all of a sudden he just appears, running away from the small shack that we exit onto from the lift. I have to ask, where was he this whole time? Was he just sitting in here ever since leaving the lab? This place has literally nothing but a few sniper rifle magazines and rust. Was he in the lab I just escaped from? Did he have a key to get the lift? Whatever, point is he's running away from us and we're tasked to hunt the fucker down. So when I mention that this next section is the worst part of the game, it's more of a direct echo of the previous section being so shit. You see, I've played through this game twice now, and each time getting to this point, regardless of what I did in different iterative attempts, I've always inevitably had almost no healing items, if none at all, and I've also gone into it with relatively low health. What follows is the only portion of the game where the human enemies, the soldiers, are ever actually a threat on their own. This is partly because of the lack of healing items, but also because of the lack of viable cover and the fucking hit scan nature of the sniper class enemy, which only appears in this last segment of the game. Dying here is not just a possibility, it's a downright inevitability however you decide to play it. If I didn't have the option to save and reload at will, I'd have probably dropped this game back during the 3rd level. But if I persevered through that, I'd probably have quit during the last section of the game. But if I had made it through that, this is where I'd fucking drop this shit show. Honestly, it's not even the rest of the level that's the problem, it's just this starting curve where the enemies are packed so densely we barely have time to get a shot off. Though it doesn't help that it empties out to a choke point where you get picked off by people in the background who actually have time to line up shots. Taking this part painfully slow and luring enemies back, we can save after every other kill and inch our way forward, and with enough patience we're rewarded this little cubbyhole with 4 medkits and some ammo. From here, the challenge for the rest of the game takes a sharp nosedive because we're adequately supplied, healed, and armed. I should also mention that this is literally the only segment of the game where the sniper rifle is worth a damn, making its inclusion feel completely fucking pointless when we can achieve the same results with a submachine gun. We shoot our way through the snow and make our way to this large stone facility that's here for some reason. I'd remind you, this game can only take place at most a week or 2 after the events of the movie, so who the fuck built these massive structures in fucking Antarctica? Anyway, we go inside and meet Whitley and, well,
Game over, Whitley.
I don't think so. I control you. Right now, I control every man on this continent. Your pathetic sabotage of the consignment at the airstrip only delayed the inevitable. There is an evac team on its way to this location. Once I take the chopper, I will begin global infection. Game over? This game is just beginning.
You think you're God. You're a drone, a catalog, chattel.
So this is the last conversation between Blake and Whitley, and I have to ask, what is so special about Blake?
why did Whitley leave him alive? Or anyone in the J Inc. facility for that matter, if his ultimate plan was to infect the rest of the world? If Whitley is a superior officer, why not just infect him to control him from the outset, assuming Whitley has been planning this from the start of the game, like the tutorial level implied? Better yet, why did he even bother sending out a subordinate who isn't informed on what's going on? You already seem to have Arctic-trained special forces on the continent, why would you send in someone who's not blindly loyal to investigate sites that would only bring attention to your evil plan? Why investigate them at all? Why not just send back false reports? This also raises the question of why Arctic Marines exist in the first place. They're not a real military faction, I can tell you that much, and if they were, what the fuck would they actually do? Preserve America's vested interest in penguins and snow cones? So yeah, shock of shocks, Whitley is not only infected with the thing, but is in fact the grand poobah of all things on the continent, and is looking to spread lung cancer, the infection across the planet.
Oh no, who could have seen that coming?
And if this weren't bad enough, he somehow made himself completely immune to fire and fucking explosions. No idea how he managed that, especially considering that the one thing back at the submersible that was also supposed to be fire resistant toasted quicker than a s'more in July. He walks off and we have to fight our way through this weird dome in pursuit of him. And for once we're presented two options of which route to take. Destroy his trip mines and take the shortcut, or take the long way around and avoid them. Considering I barely fucking touched my grenade supply since the game started, mostly because next to the fucking floor exploding, the grenades have been the biggest threat to our survival, we'll just chuck one around the corner, take out the one that doesn't get hit with some machine gun fire, and be on our way. Hey, what the fuck? There was a barrel there? What blew it up? I call bullshit! Alright, so long way it is. Not that it's particularly hard. It's mostly just these straightaways leading to the soldier ambushes, most of which we can clear with almost no effort at all. The only occasional issue is where they have already lined up for a shot and we get caught with our pants down, but the save anywhere feature helps alleviate that problem. Probably the most entertaining part of this level is the fact that the enemies are so easily goaded into walking into their own trip mines. Hell, most of them seem to enjoy just chilling right next to them, making our job incredibly easy because all we have to do now is hit a stationary box on the wall. Not that it's much easier than shooting one of these soldiers, but I digress. Eventually, we kick down the door to this place and route into the snow after Whitley. The sniper gets one more use against the threat of snipers setting up in some construction scaffolding, and from there we run down a corridor to the final showdown. We arrive at the UFO crash site where somehow Jen Inc. has started constructing a massive structure around the hole. Why? How? Again, it's only been like a week. I sure hope the construction workers are getting overtime. Whitley, starts puking for some reason. And it's the stock puking sound and animation they've used throughout this entire game, which kinda undercuts the menace when he fucking explodes into a 30-story phallus monster. Okay, game, what the shit? Admittedly, the other bosses were alarmingly big, but we never actually saw them transform. Hell, the only people we've ever seen transform are our teammates and randos around different levels, and they've never had anywhere near that kind of scale to them. It can be presumed that the monsters of varying size came from a multitude of different people, and while that raises the question of where the thing found hundreds of random people to gestate in fucking Antarctica, it still resembled some kind of logical sense. But nope, Fuck that, let's just throw conservation of mass completely out the window. One 5'10" asshole with a mortally addiction becomes a skyscraper-sized bad dragon advertisement. Fine, okay, whatever you want, game, just I gave up on you a long time ago. So this is the final boss, the big kahuna, the last hurrah. Obviously they're going to send this game out on a bang, right? I mean, just look at the size of this guy. We've got what? A few grenades? Some flamethrower fuel? Man, it's gonna take everything we have to kill this thing, or hell, just survive. Oh hey, look, a friendly helicopter conveniently armed with an infinite mounted machine gun. Yeah, so this boss is a joke. All you have to do is shoot these kerosene barrels that'll shoot fire inward towards the Whitley monster, which will slowly kill it over time. After that, you have to shoot the tentacle that comes out to slap you occasionally, and that's it. That is literally it. Barely more than a minute later, and he'll be dead. There's no challenge beyond holding a reticule over the tumor on Whitley's body and holding the trigger. That's it. The fire never stops, it constantly does damage, and there are no other weak points to shoot at. Motherfucker flops to the side like a fish out of water and dies. Though we don't really go down there to make sure that he burns away completely, so for all we know he'll just come back to life 5 minutes from now. We fly away victorious and ask our brave pilot his name and take a motherfucking guess who it is. Yeah, it's fucking McCready. How? In God's name, did he survive? Where did he get the helicopter? Why is it armed and dangerous? The only hint that we get this is coming is after we find Childs in the tutorial. And really, Mac? You couldn't bring him with you? Fuck, why am I even asking questions? This game is over. I just want it to be done.
This game is a fucking disgrace!
This plot makes no sense. The gameplay is boring when it works and a fucking disaster when it doesn't. The core conceptual conceits like the infection system are bold-faced lies. The graphics are a fucking joke. All the object models are hilariously disproportionate. Almost every asset is shamelessly reused and regurgitated. And every bit of animation makes the Miku Miku dance software look like fucking Pixar in comparison. Even worse, every major gaming outlet gave this game a milquetoast review, meaning it managed to convince these people that this piece of shit was somehow playable. Take it from me, this garbage is like looking for alligators in the New York sewage system. There is nothing of worth to be found, and all you're going to do is make yourself sick when you're done. I can only hope that Carpenter never has to see this piece of shit. God knows he'd be disappointed. What the fuck? What the fuck?
This game is an untrimmed abomination that spits in the face of every single fan of the thing there is, and the fact that John Carpenter voiced a character in it is just more salt in the wounds. It's a veritable fuck you to every single person that played this piece of crap, and I only have one thing to say in return. Yeah, well fuck you too! I've been Raymond McNeil. Catch you all on the fucking flip side.